preparing to live stream the meeting. This meeting, have you got that notice there?
Yeah, it's on.
If I stay in this meeting, you consent to be in live stream. Redirecting to YouTube. So, Lee, how are you?
Mate.
You all right, bud?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad at all. So, how's your week?
Been a tired start to the week again as usual, but I think that's for having kids and going to work for God knows how many hours, you know. So, how about you, boys?
Yeah, tired, but same old. We crack on, don't we? We crack on.
We do. We'll wake up when we get to this talk.
Yeah, missing the Prem though.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I haven't even watched any of the England game against Andorra, and we're currently playing now. I believe it's still 1-1, but I haven't seen nothing of the game, so it just doesn't interest me anymore.
Unless it's the actual tournament itself, I tend to kind of just catch up with a lot of the highlights, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, if it is still 1-1 as well in this game, then we've actually probably made it interesting for the last two games, I suppose. So I probably will watch them ones if we do draw, but we'll see. But no, I mean, it's not like, you know, when we was growing up, we used to have teams like Germany and Italy in our groups, didn't we? We don't get that no more. Poland's probably the closest you'll get to a competitor.
Yeah, but it's not, though, is it?
Currently playing. No. I think Albania were second in our group. That's because it also beat nothing of the game. So it just. Oh. I could hear myself.
So, right, what we're going to talk about today: Newcastle takeover.
Yes, indeed. Out of nowhere, come out of nowhere, didn't it? I mean, like, there's always been the rumours going on about it, but when the concrete news came through, I mean, at first I just thought, oh, they're just going to go round in roundabouts again, you know, and then it'll all fall through. But it was quickly done, wasn't it? So
yeah, I thought exactly the same thing. I thought, oh, they're going to drag the reels again. There'll be something else which comes into play, and now the whole of the Northeast is holding Saudi Arabia flags.
Yes. It's good to see them buzzing again now, because they have gone through a rough time of it, you know. The last, was it 12 years Ashley had the club? So
yeah. And to be honest, it's good to see them back. Well, not yet, but back where they kind of belong. They belong to be. They are a big club, and to be fair, they've got the best supporters going. They've stuck through and through, thick and thin. You know, championship, everything really. They've done really well.
Yeah, well, they just love the football up north, don't they? You know, it's the same goes to Sunderland, Middlesbrough. You know, they all love it up there.
Yeah, they do. It's a big area for football.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when they've briefly been up there, that's all they ever want to talk about. So it's it's exciting times for me. You know, look at the money that's going to be funded into them now. It looks like they're going to be spending about 200 million in January.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's if they can attract players. I think the only thing that I kind of worry about initially, because I think obviously Newcastle fans are rightly so really excited, because there's a few. I've put about 10 different points down which I want to obviously kind of talk about and think like good things, I suppose, which are going to come out of it. You know, but
any bad?
Well, no, not really. I think the thing is, obviously, if you look at Manchester City, they've been through the similar thing. But there's a couple of differences that I think you probably agree with. So you've got Manchester City, big-ish club, not as big as Newcastle, nowhere near as big as Newcastle. So you look
at talking in terms of fan base there, or
fan base and just everything around it. You know, if you go back the 10 years prior to their takeover, yeah, and when they come back from Division 2 and, you know, got back into the Prem, and which was a massive achievement at the time. And they've always been a well-followed club, Manchester City. But when you start going into the commercial market and start becoming this global brand, you realise how they're not that bigger club really, they're getting there now because obviously 10 years of having your Robinhos and your Adebayos, and then it's carried on, and then you've got your obviously De Bruyne's now and Silvers and Fernandinho's. They've just got gradually better and better. Your Agueros, and once they started attracting that type of player, then you're starting to look at right. They're becoming more of a global brand. But Newcastle have always been more of a global brand. If you go across the whole of Europe and probably beyond, to be fair, because they've done many stints in the Champions League and stuff like that in the past, and the likes of Alan Shearer and Faustino Asprilla back in the day, they had some good players. They've had some good teams. And I think they just genuinely belong back where they're going to be. And it'll be, instead of 6 teams battling out for the top 4, it's going to be 7 now, which is going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, well, it could be true. It's going to get to a point somewhere in the Premier League. It'll probably be the top 10 will be challenging for top 4 at some point because there's so many, there's so much funding in the game now. You're still looking at teams like Villa and Wolves themselves. They've got billionaire owners. So, me being the Wolves, I know that we're a million miles off that, but we can still challenge for Europe in coming years, I think. But Villa will have good backing. They have had good backing in the summer as well.
Well run as well, Villa at the minute.
They have been since this takeover, yeah, definitely. The last one was a shambles, but
what I'm finding is, going off the Newcastle subject, you're getting a lot of these different clubs now, which are being really well run. Leicester, another one, very well run.
But they're one of the teams I'd add into that to challenge the top 4. I mean, not this season. I think that's already passed them by with a poor start. But with seasons to come, I think they'll still be challenging.
Yeah.
In terms of Newcastle being bigger than City, I think in footballing honours, City. This is before the takeover as well. I'd have said City were the bigger club in that respect. But I know where you're coming from with the followers, definitely.
Yeah.
I think City have won a couple of league titles back in the day, haven't they?
Yeah, a long time ago.
But this could be Newcastle's time. It might take a while, but I think they'll just be happy to have quality players down there. I think they've had a bit of dross down there recently, haven't they? The last few years.
Yeah, I think if you look at it though, it took City like 4 years to kind of get there or thereabouts until they won, obviously. And it was probably like 2 years because they had Mark Hughes, didn't they, at the helm for a year or two. Had some good games with United, and they pushed quite a way, but was just not quite there really at the end of it all. But the turning point for me was because for the first couple of years I was like, they've been taken over. Well, it's Man City. What are they going to do? And then all of a sudden, Rio Ferdinand said this actually on Vibe on 5, and he was absolutely right. The pinnacle moment was when they signed Carlos Tevez. And then you started going, ooh, okay, this could be them now. And
everyone made the big fuss about Robinho, didn't they? But first couple of games, I think he scored a free kick on his debut, didn't he? And there was raving, and then
but the problem was it wasn't any. If you looked after that, once they got like that main skeleton of the side, all sorted, they added to it, and you got the goalkeeper, Joe Hart came in. Then you had Vincent Kompany at the back. You had the likes of, I don't know whether he was there at that time, but David Silva came in. And then you've got, once they've got straight down the middle, that spine.
Yeah, they sorted that spine, yeah.
Then the likes of Robinho and people like that, it made a difference. But when you sign this one-off like world beater, well, apparent world beater at the time, I didn't rate him all that highly, to be honest. He was a bit hit and miss, really, to me. But yeah,
he was a hard worker, wasn't he? He liked to press that back line, didn't he? He was a little nuisance, but yeah, it's going to be gradual because if Newcastle are still in the bottom 3 come January, I mean, yeah, there's going to be the money pull, but are people going to want to come and play for Newcastle in that situation? With the prospect of probably playing Championship the next season. Everyone be asking for a loan out.
This is where I was kind of going, really. That's one of the issues. Whereas they've still got to get it right. You know, you've still got to make these right decisions. You've got to, if they're going about getting signings in January, they've got to make sure these are proven Premier League players initially. They're going to be having a lot of back and forwards with players. You know, you're going to have some which come in, maybe short-term contracts, and then be looked to be moved on further along the line, because you're not going to attract an Mbappe and like people have talked about and people like that. But they're already talking about rinsing a couple of United's players like Martial, Lingard, Van der Beek, and Bailly. You know, and to be honest, they're big good players for Newcastle in the sense that a lot of two of them at least should be playing in United's team. Really, I think Jesse Lingard's proven that he's good enough to be playing. Well, unfortunately, he's just not going to take Bruno Fernandes's spot. You know? Yeah.
Well, do you think the players that are currently there, do you think they'll be disheartened by the fact that they're inevitably going to be replaced, or do you think they'll actually try and think, I'll go a chance here?
It's football. I think you've got to half expect it, haven't you? You've got to half expect that somewhere along the line. I think Newcastle players have been quite lucky in the fact that because they've not had a lot of money to spend, they've been quite lucky at having the places fairly cemented, apart from the odd player replacing someone here and there. But I think they've got to keep a lot of the British lads happy and keep some of them in. You've got to keep the likes of Sam Maximan, definitely. I'll be looking to replace. I'll be looking to replace the whole of the back line. Apart from maybe Lascelles.
I think Lascelles can hold in there.
Yeah, well, he's captain. I think you've got to keep him as captain because he obviously looks like he's the only one that's got a bit of kind of authority in that dressing room, really. You know, he's obviously got a bit of something about him, you know, to have...
But you look with the Wolves takeover, I mean, when we had it, most of our current crop under Lambert were pushed out and replaced. And then we had Conor Cody, who played the season at right back the season before, and he was just like, he had nothing really going for me. He was just making up a number, in my opinion. We played him as centre mid the season before that.
Conor Cody?
Yeah, Conor Cody.
Centre mid?
That's where he started. Well, he started out as a centre back, then he went to centre mid as his career, like in the professional game, started going. So he was at Sheffield United, I believe, played centre mid for them.
God, blimey, I barely played.
And Huddersfield as well, and he scored a 30-yard rocket against Wolves.
Do you know what? I remember that.
Do you?
I do remember that. It was like on one of the goal of the months on something, weren't it?
I'm not surprised, but
I remember it being, because I used to watch a lot of the lower league stuff as well, you know, like the whatever it was called, the Football League show or something like that, weren't it? You know?
Yeah. But I mean, like we thought he was going to end up going down the same route as Dave Edwards and that, you know, being basically replaced, fresh new faces in, and then Nuno obviously seen something in him. Well, he's definitely seen the leadership qualities in him, you know, and that's proved over years now.
Southgate, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely said. I mean, like I say, Steve Holland said in the Euros that he's player of the tournament because of how much he G'd up the lads in the squad. So,
and to be honest, and if you're honest, that's the reason why Jordan Henderson was still there as well, really.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he does a bit of dirty work and that, doesn't he, Henderson? He's got a good engine on him, but does lack the proper footballing ability you like to see at a club like that, wouldn't you? But
yeah, I think the thing is, you look at how well England were balanced with the likes of Rice and Phillips, and then when that kind of changed a little bit, then it got a bit like, oh, you know, we looked a bit stretched at times, and I thought, stick with what works, pal, innit, you know.
Yeah. I mean, with Lascelles now, though, this is his opportunity. If he wants to stay in that team, is to really be vocal about it. You know, he can make a name for himself in that team. He probably already is a name made in terms of Newcastle fans, but he can go down a similar route to what Cody can.
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know,
And you
and
can
be a
tell he's got
mainstay
that
there.
kind of authority in the changing room. But you can tell the way he is on the pitch. He's always shouting. He's always talking. And to be honest, it doesn't matter what he kind of does really. And he gets himself in some positions. Scored a few goals here and there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's
It,
got to play. You've got to keep the likes of him in there.
it'll be exciting for a few players in that squad, but I think some of them are probably going to be a bit downbeat, thinking, "Well, my number's up at some point soon." But they've got to keep going. You never know; they might impress the new guy. So
I'll give you three that are definitely gone for me.
go on then.
Almiron, Joe Linton,
Definitely.
Matt Ritchie, Isaac
Yeah.
Hayden. There's another one. They ain't gonna play. They ain't gonna play in a Saudi takeover team.
No, I mean, like, it's hard to say at the moment because you still need the squad. Some of them might end up staying another year or two, but
I think they need to be keeping the Longstaff brothers in there. Geordies, they're only Geordies they've got.
I know that's gone from the guy. I was watching the Liverpool game the other day with all
Paul
the scouts.
Dummett's the other one, and is he a Geordie?
He's a Welsh international, but I don't know whether he's Welsh through ancestry. I'm not too sure.
Grandad or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not too sure whether he's Geordie.
Worth a scout that.
I'll have a look at it.
Because to be honest, I'm sure he is. I'm sure I've heard that anyway. I might be completely wrong.
There's probably a good chance because I think he's been there pretty much all his career, hasn't he? So let me just
obviously they had Andy Carroll, but I presume they've let him go now, haven't they?
Yes, he went at the end of last season. I think he's trained with a couple of championship clubs. I think it was Reading I heard he was with.
Reading?
Yeah, but he ain't coming back.
No.
Newcastle upon Tyne. Paul Dummett, yes, so he's a Geordie.
Do you know what I mean? This old dad doesn't let me down.
all I remember is him being a Welsh national, but most of the Wales team aren't Welsh anyway, really, are they? So.
Well, I've heard, so basically with the takeover, Saudi Arabia backed down, saying they completely agreed to pay the compensation to be in sports, committing to stopping all TV piracy within the borders, as well as also agreeing to ensuring the citizens of Saudi Arabia can all now access beIN Sports. So,
yeah, a few more viewers there then.
Well, it's going to be a big old thing, isn't it? They're going to have the whole kind of shebang. And if they've got anything about them, they'll set up as the global brand first, because once that's making money in the bubble, all around Newcastle, everything, then kit sales will just go boom. Once they start getting decent, like some big names in, I just wonder whether, because I know they've got all this money and they've got to be kind of speaking to these players' agents and saying, this is the project. It might take 4 years, but realistically, this is where we're going. This is what we're wanting to do. But the likes of these big players, you see how United have struggled over the last few years. Not being able to
sign management, mate, to be honest with you. I put that down to management, to be honest with you.
No, not necessarily. No, because now you look at it. We want to sign Cristiano Ronaldo. We want to sign Varane. These players, Van der Beek wouldn't have even entertained us because we tried the year before and he wasn't even interested because we hadn't made the Champions League. We're in the Europa League. So when you're in the Europa League, you're not going to attract the same players they want to play in the Champions League. That is the pull. So my worry is, are they going to attract the players they want to attract that look good on paper initially, while they're still kind of down in 17th position in the league? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. I do wonder if they're going to probably look at, the up-and-coming talents in France. There seem to be a lot come through there out of nowhere. And then you obviously, from what I've seen from Wolves, bringing through these Portuguese players, some you've never heard of, some are, like I knew who Neves and obviously Matinho were at the time, but I was surprised we could, be enticed, but especially Neves in the Championship was unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
and Moutinho to come the first season in the Premier League. I even thought that was a little bit surreal. So there is going to be some pulling power there for them. They've just got to have the right scouting network in place.
This is it. They've already got that sorted by the looks of it. I can't remember what he's called, but they've brought somebody who's like, director of football and obviously some kind of somebody with a bit of clout, which is obviously going to pull them in the right direction. And that is as big as a 100 million signing, really. Getting that kind of stuff sorted. So, like it's like a modern day Peter Kenyon, I suppose. Whereas for you, he was doing bits for United, he was like, wow, this guy's amazing, attracting everybody. And then all of a sudden he's gone to Chelsea and like, wow, look, they're attracting everybody. And if you've got somebody with that kind of clout behind them, with that kind of, kind of respect more than anything, I suppose, global respect, you're always going to stand a chance. And that is already shows that they've got their head screwed on, and I think they'll do well. These guys in charge of Newcastle, because it's not just the Saudis are obviously putting a lot of the money in, but they're not going to be going, oh, I want him and I want him and I want him. They're going to be leaving a team to kind of run everything. But it's interesting. And to be honest, everyone's going, oh no, there's going to be another team, but it can't do any harm for the game at all. And
it's good to get another team involved, isn't it? In it, because it does get a bit boring when it's the same 4 or 5 teams challenging for top 4, But I suppose for me, being the fan of Wolves, it's putting us there in another spot at some point.
Well, this is what I'm going to say.
They finished above us last season. So.
We had a prediction 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I turned around and said Newcastle could be pulled right down there, and
they're still good. By January,
it could, because they might not attract the players, and they might have to go through the rest of the season with what they've got. So, and while they've got what they've got, and obviously with Callum Wilson, he's coming back this week. Apparently, is he? Is it this week? So that's as big as a signing again, really, having someone like him back in there, because Sam Maximin's trying to do everything on his own at the minute. And unfortunately, he's just like your guy, Traore, at finishing. He's like, has about 20 shots and one of them goes in. But you can't deny what quality he's got. He's one of those players that gets you off your feet. And it's amazing to watch. And you almost think, oh, it's a shame he's got a Newcastle kit on. But maybe it's going to be the opposite thinking now. Maybe it's going to be like, this guy's going to be really good with some really good players around him. Not feeling like he's having to do everything on his own, I suppose.
Do you reckon Wilson will stay as a squad player? Because his injury record hasn't been great recently, has it, sir?
Yeah, I think he'll stay. Yeah, I think he's the type of person that they need to be keeping hold of. I think because if he keeps fit, and when he is fit, you've got to play for me. He scores goals. He scores goals all the time. Wherever he's been, he scored goals. And you can't get rid of someone like that. Joe Linton, be first on my sheet to go. He can't hit a barn door. And this is the problem. They're creating lots of chances, but they've got all these people. Almiron couldn't buy a goal for ages. And he's honestly, I'm looking at him, and he's another one that got me slightly excited, but there's just no end product with him. And it's a shame, really. They get all this attacking, and if they could convert chances, I bet they'd be up in the top 6. I really do. Because
I think Bruce has sort of, even though they haven't got a win yet, he has sort of like expanded his way of playing a slight little bit, hasn't he? Because I think he feels like he's got nothing to lose now. I'm not saying it's been scintillating football, because he's still pretty poor, but
he's gone though, isn't he? He'd be gone, isn't he?
Well, yeah, I was going to get on to that. So, who do you reckon for next gaffer?
Well, to be honest, there's only 2 people you could go and get, in my opinion, maybe 3. But they were talking Lampard and Favre and people like that. But to be honest, if you're going to go, they ain't going to do more with a team that they're planning on getting than Steve Bruce is.
If you got Lampard in, I'd rather keep Steve Bruce at this moment in time.
This is exactly what I'm saying. I'm Favre, and realistically, Steve Bruce is a better manager than these people. And unfortunately, he's never had the money to spend. I know Newcastle fans have been on his case because he's not the big manager, but I tell you what, with what he's had, I don't think he's done too bad. It might be one of those where unpopular opinions, but honestly, I think he's been done a big disservice, really, Steve Bruce, because you look at the football at times that they play, attacking wise, especially. It's not his fault that half of his back line is like shite, and they are. Apart from Lascelles, I don't think any of them are good enough really to be in the Premier League, or if they are, a lower league team than what Newcastle should be. I just don't think they're good enough at the back. They've got 2 out of 3 decent goalkeepers, really good, Darlow and Dubravnik.
I don't think Woodman's a bad goalie. I think he was done a bit of disservice against
United
because Ronaldo was back, wasn't he? And then
I think Ronaldo must have chucked him a tenner.
But he definitely doesn't need to do that, does he, against any goals?
But yeah, at times he's looked all right. I've not seen enough of him, to be honest, to be able to comment. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people turn around and say he's done fairly well when he's come in. Didn't see it too much against United because I think he could have probably saved at least, if not 2 of them, 1 of them.
It's probably a nerve-wracking day, isn't it? It could be a mental side of the game. Thinking, oh, now Ronaldo's back. He's you either pull off a blinder or you just completely cave in, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But Swansea the season before, he had a good season.
Once 2 goals have gone in, you're a bit like, oh, where's this going?
I've played in goal many times myself, mate. Once I've conceded that second goal, I'm thinking, bloody hell, any more are going to go past me. So,
like a cricket score.
I'm not that bad. But defence were.
Yeah. Hey, sign of a quality keeper, that blaming the defence. I like it. But yeah, go on.
Who are the 2 to 3 managers you're thinking we're looking at then?
Right. The only 3 which you could get, and I think that if you could persuade them, is Conte. He's a born winner, isn't he? If you're going to get someone, you're going to spend some money, then Conte is the man to get in. Then there's Zidane. But are you going to persuade Zidane to come up to Newcastle at this stage? Probably not. Maybe he'll turn around and go, stay in the Premier League, buy some players, then I might look to come in a couple of years' time. Maybe that's kind of option. Maybe that's kind of an option with Conte as well. But what's the guy, Nagelsmann? Those are the only 3 managers now which are missing being in the Premier League, in my opinion. And I think one of them, at some point, if Solskjaer keeps getting bad results, one of them 3 is going to be manager of Manchester United.
Probably Zidane if I was to pick one of those 3.
I kept thinking Brendan Rodgers would be, but I don't know. I just can't see him leaving Leicester at the short term at all. I just think he's got it fairly good there.
I'll tell you what I think's going to happen. There's been a lot of reports about Ralf Rangnick from Germany coming in as possibly a technical director or something like that, or director of football. I reckon he'll take the role till the end of the season. I think they'll approach Rodgers or Gerrard. And I think the way they've got to look at that is the way they've built their teams over the few years. So
that's what I mean. They keep going on about Gerrard as well, but that's a recipe for disaster, because although he's a cracking player, he's basically, Rangers should have been winning everything anyway, really.
But he has had to get their mentality into being a title winning team. There's always Celtic winning it while Rangers work their way back up, but I think he's brought a cohesion there with Rangers. I know it's the Scottish League, but I think he's proved there what he can do in bringing the players together and wanting to play for him. I think that's probably one thing they'll be looking at.
Yeah, but he hasn't managed any superstars yet.
Well, if he gets to Newcastle in this state, he still won't be managing any superstars.
Yeah, well, that's it. He's like, what can he do? Because you're looking at it, and Newcastle's squad as it is now is still way better than Rangers' squad.
Yeah, you'd expect them to beat them.
But... Yeah,
I think Rangers fans probably give a bit
I
of
don't,
debate on
I
that as
don't
well.
care. I have no loyalties to
Oh,
Scotland at all. My
it's all
loyalty
about
to
debate, isn't
Scotland
it?
went out the window when I seen them wearing Brazil shirts years ago. Honestly, that'll stick with me forever, and my dad for that matter. I tell you what, that aggravated the shit out of me. And to be honest, I always watched out for the home nations. You know, in any kind of big competition, that changed my mind completely. And yeah, I've no loyalties to Scotland, and I'll say that because it's literally a 2-horse race up there. It's always been a 2-horse race, and if the them two fall out of it, they've just been absolutely shit and shocking. To be honest, that's the way I look at it. That'll always be, and there'll be another 20 years of that 2-horse race, which ends up a 1-horse race majority of the time because one of the teams ends up like losing to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I just think in terms of man management, he's sort of proved what he can do. You know, I know you're saying like, yeah, it's that SPL, but he has, you know, he's had to still rally players at Liverpool. I know they didn't have a world-beating team. They did win the Champions League while he was captain there, but he still had to deal with.
I'll tell you what, that's going to be interesting. A Scouser leading a load of Geordies.
Let's just have them all bobbing as well, you know.
People like, I can't tell what these are saying. We can't tell what you're saying.
I'm sure the Geordies that there will be sold.
What's he on about? Hey,
they'll probably be like that anyway if they're bringing him in from France.
What is this guy talking about? It would be, don't it? You're bringing all these foreign players in. They're going to go, what's this guy on about? But I just don't think he's got the pedigree to take on a Premier League club yet, to be honest.
If I was to pick between the two, it'd be Rodgers. But
yeah, massively. Rodgers deserve it, in my opinion. He's a good manager. He's proved it. He's been here. He's been there. He's been back. What he's done with Leicester, you know, because obviously you look at that Leicester team, which Ranieri like tinkered to winning the Premier League, which was unreal, and it'll never be done again in our time. You know, I'll be surprised anyway. You know, but Mahrez, Kante, Huth, you had all these players at the time, and then obviously a young Morgan. Some of these players, they ain't there now. They went straight away. As soon as they'd won the league, they were like being snapped up then. Vardy, fair play, sticking with them. And to be fair, I like that. I've got a lot of respect for players that show a bit of loyalty. And I like how he turned around and said, why should I leave? They've shown an interest in me, which nobody else shown. And I thought, mate, I wish more people were like that. You know,
you got Danny Drinkwater as well, who's the only good season he's ever had in his career. And
when they won the Premier League.
Yeah. He should have stayed there, you know. He probably would have made more of a name for himself like Vardy, you know.
Everyone just chases the money. And I remember saying at the time, I went, that's a bad move for him to Chelsea, that. I just thought, he ain't even going to get a game. And
but he didn't.
Well, he didn't. And when he did, he got injured, didn't he? So he picked up an injury. He started, I think, and then picked up an injury and then came back, and obviously they'd replaced as well and got some more midfielders in at the time, Chelsea. So then he just fell to the further back of the queue. And then when you're starting to get signed the likes of Barkley from Everton and people like that, it was like, he's definitely not playing. Yeah. He's not playing at all.
I mean, even getting Barkley in was a bad decision on Chelsea's part, I suppose, wasn't it? Because they barely got anything out of him either. So
I don't see in this day and age, I think if you're with a club and you're playing regularly and they're willing to up your contract to a better contract so you don't leave that club, stick with your club. You can be a hero. You can be something for a club and mean something rather than being a statistic in a world-beating team where you go, oh, he's only played a handful of games. It's a shame. He was a good at him. And you've seen it so many times. Even Van der Beek, stick with Ajax. Why have you come to United? You know, And although I rate him and think he's really been harshly treated at United, I think sometimes people just chase the money. I think
he's stalled his career a little bit, hasn't he, in terms of a playing perspective. So I did see a picture the other day of, I think there was 5 Ajax players from the year they got to the semi-final.
Matthias de Ligt.
Yeah, de Ligt, who struggled. He hasn't done well at Juventus.
Chelsea have been after him again lately, I think. I think they were on about trying to sign him either in the summer or if they could get away with it in the January window. But United were heavily linked with him, and then they ended up going for Van der Beek the following year instead. But de Ligt, it was Ziyech.
Who's sort of in and out, isn't he? He seems to drift in and out of
I think he's more in favour with Tuchel.
Yeah. I think he's probably had a few injury problems, if anything, hasn't he? Because he seems to just be in the team one week and then just disappear the next. But,
and obviously Van der Beek.
Van der Beek, yeah.
Him who used to be at Southampton.
Tadic, I think he's still there, isn't he? Unless he's moved on in the
summer.
summer.
Goals, big goals as well. Scoring lots of goals, but it just shows the quality of the leagues these days because he weren't pulling numbers like that in a Southampton shirt. And you could be playing there for the next 5 to 10 years and have probably never got anywhere near them figures.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near the figures now. He wasn't a bad player over here.
I thought he was a good one.
Yeah.
And who was the other one?
The goals he was scoring was ridiculous. I don't think you'd have classed him as an out-and-out striker over here as well. I think...
Well, they played him as a winger, didn't they?
Yeah, like left wing. I think he's classed more up front, isn't he? For that, he's got to be scoring them amount of goals. But
yeah, I think realistically, it's a tough league and the best league by an absolute margin. Especially now, you look at the Barcelona, you look at La Liga, and what's happened? What's happened to the league?
It's absolute mess, isn't it? Literally, they've lost the 2 best players out of it, and in the last 3-4 years.
Exactly. And then the appeal's gone down. All the kind of big players have gone. Even likes of Ramos. Who'd have thought I thought he was a lifer at Real Madrid. Who'd have thought he'd have gone to Paris Saint-Germain? Who'd have thought Varane had left Real Madrid to come to United? All these kind of players and now they're attracting Depay and even Griezmann leaving to go back to Atletico.
Martin Braithwaite playing for Barcelona. He couldn't even hit a ball off Middlesbrough.
Yeah, that's a bad do, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him his due. He's a hard worker again, but
he's done all right. He's revived his career a bit, but God blimey, that just shows. And that Ansu Fati's no Messi, is he?
Not seen much of him, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot of hype about him, isn't there? But he's going to be nowhere near Messi's level, obviously. But
there's been
this is the problem when you put hype on players at their age.
There's been hype about him for 5 years. First time I heard him, and it was like, oh, and I was like, never heard anything. Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of watching Spanish. I don't know what it is about Spanish football. Now you've got the 2 giants there. I mean, probably the only time I would sit down and watch it was when they played each other.
Yeah, exactly. A Classico. And I was the same. That was a must watch every time. But not interested now. And to be honest, I think most people are like that now. And maybe it needs to go through that phase, a bit like the Italian football did for a bit, because that had superstars galore, the Serie A, for ages, even like when the original R9 Ronaldo was playing, that was great to watch, that Serie A back then. That
was probably the pulling power, wasn't it, having Brazilian Ronaldo playing there at that time?
Even prior to that, though, the likes of, and the reason why everyone, like the likes of Middlesbrough, were signing Ravanelli, and you had Batistuta at Fiorentina, and that was a good league back in the day, like Crespo at Lazio. They had some epic players back in the day. It was a wicked league to be in. AC Milan with Maldini and Baresi, and it was a brilliant league. And I used to sit there on a Sunday morning watching Go Lazio.
Exactly the same.
Used to love it. That was part of my Sunday, that.
Who was your adopted Italian teams? Everyone used to pick one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Who was it?
AC Milan.
Mine would have been because my dad brought me the Lazio shirt with Salas on the back. Remember Marcel?
Yeah, Marcelo
Salas?
Salas. Of course I do. He was a
So,
beaut.
yeah, I did like Lazio, but I did like Fiorentina as well. So I used to love Batistuta. So.
Well, to be honest, I kind of liked, say, when Gascoigne went over there and Ince went over there, and you know, it was nice. It was nice watching it. You know, to see some of the English guys go over and do quite well. You know, because they did all right, really, on the grand scheme of things. Because as a rule, they've never done that well. But when round about that time, when they did go over there, they started really fitting in. But going back to Newcastle, if I was Newcastle now, that's where I'd be going rinsing that league. I'd be going rinsing that league for what was that left back called? Spigger, is he? Him who played left back in the tournament and he got injured.
I know who you're on the base, yeah. For Spinazzola.
That's what a player he is. You know, those players and the likes of what we called in the middle as well. That was a good one. Scored a Locatelli.
Yeah, he's just gone to Juventus. Yeah, so probably unlikely. But
that league is coming up again now. That's the league to they're having a bit of a resurgence again. You know, and it's kind of good to see them. You know, when they go off the radar. And then you get likes of Ronaldo goes there, and then Lukaku goes there, and then you know people like, all right, look, it's like United's second 11 in Italy, but they're going over there, even Smalling, and doing a good job. But then they come to the Euros, and nobody has Italy to like win it. And then
I did have them as a dark horse. I had a feeling. I've seen the record under Mancini.
That's if you're really delving into it and you put them as a dark horse, but you're really kind of going like that, aren't you? You know.
If I'd have put the bet there, they wouldn't have won it, and England would have probably won the tournament.
You know what? It's always worth putting both down in that instance, isn't it? But I think when you look at it, then you see them playing. And to be fair, Mancini didn't play the same team twice, apart from the centre halves, obviously, which are a dead certain, aren't they? Bonucci and Chiellini. They'd play in any side, you know. They would. They're just like they're a brick wall, human brick walls, and that's what they do. They're a defensive side. They work together defensively as a unit, and I've never seen any nation defend like them. And you've got all these nations which are all like, and to be honest, as good as the next best from the Italians defensively is England now, ironically, in my opinion. I think we look as good as anyone defensively.
Not too sure on that. Well, we've conceded a penalty tonight, but I haven't seen none of the game. It's one game, isn't it? But
Harry Maguire's not played. John Stones, don't know if he's played tonight. Probably not. Did he score? Did he?
Yeah, he scored. I've just seen it on my app, but
oh, there you go. He's played, so you got one out of the two because Maguire wouldn't have played. I'd be surprised.
It was Mings and Stones at the back to there.
You've always got a chance of getting round Mings, in my opinion.
So we haven't got the best defender.
He's a good. He's a decent defender. Don't get me wrong. And to be honest, never didn't step a foot wrong up till Maguire playing. You know, in the Euros. But I think realistically, he doesn't get in the top 6 sides in the Premier League, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll see where you're coming from in terms of England being defensively astute, because obviously we think more tactically, don't we? I think, especially on the defensive side of things, especially when you see a lot of the British managers are managing the top league have always been classed as negative and dinosaur type managers, haven't they? Because they want to start from the back.
Exactly. And unfortunately, we just came up against a more tactically astute nation in the final. You know, we had a great start, Luke Shaw, but from then we needed to push on, and we didn't push on. We give them too much respect, and you can't give them that much respect. Once they get that goal, I fancy Italy all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Lie. As soon as they scored, because fancy defending for 60 minutes against the Italians. It should be in the rule book that should never happen, because sooner or later they're going to break down them barriers and they're going to score. They created a lot of chances as well straight from that, and even before that, obviously England scored after 3 minutes or something crazy like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is what frustrates me, because when your team, especially if I've seen it down the Molly and myself, if a team takes a lead and they've been playing well up to that point to take the lead, just continue playing the way you were. Don't sit back and invite it back onto you, because
exactly.
the inevitable is going to happen. So
if you've managed to get a goal so early on against Italy, you've figured a way of picking the lock.
Yeah.
Which you look across that whole of that tournament, not many did against Italy. So go with what you know. Go with what's currently working, and then all of a sudden we let them play. And then that, as I say, that's where it was beginning at the end then. I fancied Italy all day long once they scored.
Yeah, you could see them scoring and you could see them winning it. But yeah, I just hope whoever takes over at Newcastle's going to take the ball by the horns and just go over. Like, it was one of my favourite teams to watch in the Premier League growing up, and one of the first teams I did watch at that level.
Don't get me wrong, I was sick as a pig when United didn't sign Shearer and he went back to Newcastle. I was like, oh. And then sometimes I think to myself, I wonder what if Alan Shearer had signed for United would have been unbeatable for years, mate. Honestly,
they pretty much were anyway, weren't they? In domestic level, but in domestic level.
When Shearer was playing, they were like, they always give United a good game and beat us a couple of times too. Like an Achilles heel briefly, while they were down in like 16th, 17th in the league. And they signed like Michael Owen, obviously, as well. They've always had this ability to sign decent players, and this is what makes me wonder whether they will struggle as much as I potentially think they might do in the short term, because they've always had this ability. This is what I mean about, if you look at other clubs come in and try and say the Saudi takeover was, let's just say, Crystal Palace, right? They've had a long stints over the years, way more than being in Division 1. They've had a lot of stints in the Premier League. A lot of years in the Premier League, even when they were ground sharing with Wimbledon back in the day at Selhurst Park, they not got the same pulling power, and they had Mark Wright and Mark Bright. They've had some players there over the years, but they've not attracted anyone like Newcastle have. And
I think back in the day, there was probably, obviously, we've mentioned loyalty. There was a bit more loyalty back then, where you could keep certain players. Let's say Ian Wright was there for a bit, wasn't he? But then Arsenal come calling. Yeah. So there was sort of that pulling power back then, but I think there was a lot more loyalty. But money's overtaken there, and some of them are going to get completely just swayed by this money that Newcastle throw at it. Their priority now is just stay up this season. But whoever's in charge and whoever they're going to bring in, they just need to pull them all together. Yeah, start getting some wins together.
And tell them they're playing for to stay in the squad. Basically,
they're going to have to. There's a massive chance of some of them. Yeah,
massively. And you can't expect any. That's how it should be in football. That's how it always was. If you're looking at the great Ferguson sides, even some of the best players, they were never guaranteed a shirt. Juan Sebastian Ferron, he was a good one. He weren't guaranteed a starting place in United squad. Luis Saha, neither was he. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, desperate.
Solskjaer never a starter, was he?
Never scored more goals and more reliable as many players that had ever graced a shirt. Never guaranteed a spot. And I suppose this is what kind of comes back down to loyalty, and it's just not in the game anymore. Money, it's all about money. It's about money I'm not doing everybody a disservice, because there are many, many players obviously still around, which if they could and have the option of being loyal. James Ward-Prowse, he's loyal, He had options.
He'll probably become a Newcastle player at some point. It looks like they've targeted him, but yeah, he has been linked with them, but the price tag's ridiculous. They're saying about 60 million.
Good. So they should put it on him as well. And to be fair,
they should put it on him, but it ain't worth it.
I rate him highly. You look at what he brings to that Southampton side and what he could bring to another side. You just look at his goal contributions, just in general, whether that's assists, penalties, free kicks. He's worth playing. He's worth buying.
That's about as far as it goes for me. I think there's flaws to his game, but if you bring in the right players to work off it, then he's going to be a weapon for them, isn't it? So
yeah, massively. You're just not seeing the best of him because he's in a fairly weak side there at Southampton, which, to be fair, Hassan Hüttl's not done a bad job with them, really. They play some decent football at times, but you're always going to be able to pick them. It's a bit like Newcastle, where you can see the weaknesses and you go, well, he's the man to target. If you get him down the wings, he ain't going to contain you. If you get that ball into the box, he ain't going to contain you. Keep the ball away from central midfield, where Romeo and James Ward-Prowse are, and you're going to have some joy, But I think, in general, they are another Newcastle. They should have a takeover further down the line. That'd be interesting to see, because they deserve something like that, in my opinion. They've been in the Premier League, apart from the odd couple of years, for so long. Great seeing Matt Letizia back in the day. He was loyal.
Yeah.
Loyalty.
Yeah. Well, one of my favourite players to watch. Just made it look so easy, didn't they?
He was a genius on the football.
Yeah.
He was.
And we should have played him more times.
Yeah. Amazing. But anyway, back to Newcastle.
Yeah. Well, that's how we bought Price. So if he's targeted, then he's an okay player. But he's got that asset, hasn't he? Of set plays, and that if you've got players to, get on the end of his set pieces, or if he puts him in himself off direct free kicks and that, then he's going to bring goals to them.
Big time, massively. Someone who can get the ball in the box, someone who can take free kicks and scores the majority of them too, or gets close. You're getting corners off some of these as well. If the keeper's making some absolute worldie of a save, you get in a corner. They're not going to pluck the ball out of the top corner and hold on to it. There's not a single goalkeeper that does it in the Premiership. There isn't, though, is there?
No.
Think of the last time you've seen a goalkeeper fully stretched like Schmeichel used to do, Peter Schmeichel, but my ad, right in the top corner and hold on to it, and that's it. Doesn't happen. They just go, making most of it. You've got one of the best goalkeepers I've seen, in my opinion.
Sarr.
Jose Sarr, honestly, I rate him big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, but he's done a lot better than I expected him to, because I think when you've lost someone as consistent as what Patricio was, then I think
good signing that.
Yeah, I was a bit worried because obviously he come from Olympiacos, and then they're usually playing teams over in Greece, aren't they? So he's probably not had as much to do, not as much quality, definitely.
Exactly, not been tested
against him, but it seems to suit him.
4 shots against him in the last 3 years.
And all the ones that they conceded went in.
That was Panathinaikos. Hey, but as far as Newcastle go, mate, no more Mike Ashley. Newcastle fans must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, he's putting the fear of God into Derby now, but I suppose they need a buyer, don't they? So, yeah,
is he going there? Is he?
There's been rumours. I think something was addressed today, but I haven't clicked on the article about it. But he's got money, hasn't he? That's the good thing there. But
I'd be going into administration, me.
Close out business quick.
Sack it. Just give us our ticket, our notice, and we'll be on our way. I don't want that misery. He must just like teams with black and white.
Yeah. Going to Juventus next.
Yeah, no, hang on a minute. But
Yeah, I
No.
mean, obviously they're going to be over the moon with that, aren't they? So there's one thing I can guarantee for certain, that everyone who owns Football Manager 2022, that they'll be managing them now and making their own team out of it.
Yeah,
So
we've got billions to spend.
I want to hope it's updated for them, else there'll be a few angry faces, especially from the Geordies over if they want to play that game. So
exactly that. Oh, so but you just look at it. We've had some absolute legends there over the years on Newcastle. You know, they've got the history. Keegan going as back as far as that. Gascoigne, you know, they've had some worldies over the years. You know, I enjoyed watching them. The Liverpool Newcastle games every year was like superb, weren't they? You know, in the like 90s, late 90s.
All the best games in the mid-90s involved Newcastle when they was playing Liverpool and United and that. You know?
Oh yeah.
It weren't even the superstars that were the pull with Newcastle. It was players like Gary Speed and Rob Lee, you know, just really good players and
brilliant players. Brilliant, honestly, and really underrated players as well. You know, really underrated. Gary Speed was superb. He was absolutely exceptional, and so was Rob Lee, and he was loyal.
Yeah, probably the two most underrated players in Premier League history, really.
Graced the football.
Never really mentioned. So
I agree, 100% agree. There weren't too many more like it. Honestly,
we had the pleasure of having the absolute nutcase Tamori Ketsboya down Molyneux as well. So.
Oh, Tamori, he was Georgian, wasn't he? He was good.
The Georgian Geordie,
yeah, the Georgian Geordie. What were he called? Who came and he was like meant to be this absolute world beater. Not Ginola were good. I rated him.
Oh yeah, Ginola.
Ginola were class, but it's not him I was thinking of. It was what was he called? French guy.
Is this in the mid-90s or?
Laurent.
Robert.
Robert. That was him.
He just had an hard shot, didn't he? Yeah, he's almost like the left-footed ball post to me.
Yeah, but he was like meant to be the next big world beater when he came to Newcastle. He was like, wow, and everyone had played him as championship manager. And was like, Robert, this guy's amazing. He come from Marseille or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember what team he come from. That's a bit far back for me, but
I think he might have been Marseille.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw of him, he was a decent player, but yeah, probably never going to be a top world class player, was he? But I'd imagine the Geordies hold him in high regard for some of the goals he put in. So
yeah, and to be honest, the Geordie fans, because we've talked about it, they are the pinnacle of football fans to me. You know, supporting the club through thick and thin. They've endured some shite as well, to be honest. You know, and some of the players, you must almost at times think, is there any way back from this? And they survive and they go again and they pick out a couple of players. And this is going back to me saying about Steve Bruce. If you're going to get Lampard or Favre, they ain't going to do any different to what Steve Bruce is going to do. Steve Bruce brings like experience. He knows how to keep a solid shape and, you know, and be hard to beat. I suppose that's the thing. If you're going to Newcastle on a cold winter bloody Tuesday night, you're going to be like, oh, this is a grim place to go and play. And
yeah, they could make it their own Stoke, couldn't they?
yeah, absolutely.
Especially on a European match night, if they they will get to that level eventually, I'd imagine, with the financial backing they're going to get, but how long
this
it takes.
Is what worries me about the January thing and trying to sign people in January. Imagine getting people to come over to Newcastle in January.
Freezing cold.
Bad enough going Manchester or Liverpool. You know, never mind bloody Newcastle. It's freezing up there in winter. God,
they'll warm them up with all their wads of cash, don't worry.
Wads of cash and Bovril.
My perceptions, Shay, I think they will now stay up. I think if there could be a story in it where it might go down to, like, I could see something happening where it could go down to the last day or something. And
What's interesting, mate, is the fact that Crystal Palace are doing well and Brentford are doing well. So there's a place there, because I've said before, my two that are definitely going down are Burnley and Norwich this year.
Yeah,
100%.
same here.
I'll
Yeah,
put
same
money
here.
on. I'll put money on that. You know, but
Well,
it's the other one. It's that other position. And I was thinking to myself, couple of bad results, and they start getting bad results against the likes of them two teams and getting draws against the likes of Burnley, which those are the games they need to be winning. You know, now especially. You know, Burnley, Norwich. But if they 3, 6, 12 points there, 12 points ain't going to keep you up. Even if you win them games, you've got to start getting results against Crystal Palace, against Wolves, against Brighton, against Villa. Again, do you know what I mean? All these teams, which are like from, say, 9th place down, you've got to be getting draws or wins. Winning your home games, draws away, and hoping and praying that the others ain't doing the same thing as you're doing. Because Brentford have started and looked good to me. We've had this discussion. Brighton have started and looked really good to me. We've had this discussion. Aston Villa are looking good as a squad. They've got a good project there. They're not going to be down there. Leeds, good project. Probably going to get pulled down there a little bit more. He's another one, Bielsa. I'd be interested to see him with money.
Yeah.
Newcastle, because everyone raves about him. And to be honest, like what he's done there at Leeds, but it's the same old story, innit, with Leeds. They're going to have games where they get battered. They're going to have games where they win 4-0. You know, it's just so open football. But what do you think?
With Bielsa at Newcastle, to be honest, I think Leeds will probably be the only English team he manages. I think he's knocking on a bit now as well, isn't he? So I think once he's done there, that'll be his only job in English football. I know he's been linked with a few because, you know, he has opened up his brand to this country now, hasn't he? So,
yeah.
But I think he'll feel like he's going against the Leeds fans as well. If he was to ever leave and go to another club in England, I think he's got that connection with their fans now, hasn't he? You know, well, you know, 100% put it past him, but I just can't see him anywhere else in England.
They're not gonna go for someone like that. If they're gonna with money, they're gonna go for someone
a bit younger, you know, and
someone who's won something. I think that's going to be high on the priority list. I think obviously, like you've been talked about, Steven Gerrard, he's won something, you know, and
Rodgers has,
yeah. I can't see him tempting Rodgers. I'm not sure.
I could see it in the summer if Leicester have continued the way that they have gone to the start of this season. Then I think
they're going to finish really well, though. Leicester. Once you start getting some of them players back, like Fofana and James, is it Justin and?
Well, apparently, I saw earlier that Fofana is Newcastle's #1 target. They want him to be their main centre half.
Oh,
obviously he's not fit at the moment, had a bad injury, so that probably knocks that back a bit. But they are looking at him. I've heard
Fofana and Lascelles at the back.
Yeah, I mean, Tarkowski's been mentioned as well. I mean, Burnley lose him, that's them gone completely then. So.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. You hit the nail on the head. You pick any of that. If Burnley lose any of their starting 11. Well, no, not any, because there's some of them which I don't rate at all. They got the fella at left back, which you were on about, that came from Lyon.
Max O'Connor.
Yeah, he looks a good one. And Ben Mee looks a good one. Tarkowski. But as good as they've got is defensively. Once you start losing that, Nick Pope, he's a good one. I rate him highly.
Yeah.
But once you start losing, Dwight McNeil, and then it goes and Barnes and Wood, then it goes a bit stale then, doesn't it? I think, you lose one or two of them, and then, although I rate Deitch, he's got his work cut out then. He really has. And I think he's got his work cut out now anyway. I think everyone else has strengthened and looks really good and has got the money to kind of strengthen. And he's not got that kind of money to strengthen. And when he does, he buys all right. Don't get me wrong, but there's no pulling power at Burnley.
No, they've got new owners, haven't they? But yeah, they've. I think it's almost reminded me of a longer version of when the McCarthy era with Wolves, when we managed to stop 3 years was almost too long for us to be there. I mean, Burnley have been back there, what, 6, 7 years now there? But done it the old British way as well. They do remind me of Wolves in 2010, something like that, when we was up there.
Yeah.
Just stayed up through grit.
I'm glad of that, though. I'm glad they've stayed up there through grit and determination rather than trying to do the whole Bolton Wanderers thing, which ends up years down the line, ends up putting them into administration and they're in League 1 and 2. You know, that doesn't bode well at all for anybody, because obviously Allardyce had this team, Djorkaeff, JJ Okocha, Good Johnson, Ivan Campo, Jaskalainen, Gardner. You know, these players were like, oh, good Bolton have got. Like, this Championship manager is going to be fantastic. But then they overcompensated, and the hope of getting European football and staying in the upper echelons, top 10 of the Premier League, then that kind of money they were relying on to fund these other players coming in, you know, and keeping them on these big contracts. And once it goes stale and goes to shit, you can't pull yourself out of that. And then all of a sudden, Sherman goes, Gartside, and then it's all a world of shite then. And it's hard to recover. There's been many teams which have been like it. That is what they need to avoid. Newcastle need to avoid an absolute mess. They need to kind of stabilise what they've got. If they can add in January, then buzzing, you know, whatever they get is great. I think realistically, they've got it fine going forward. I'd have a midfielder and probably buy a couple of defenders maybe this year. If
definitely need defenders,
yeah. Who would you go for? If you were the man, the Saudis have turned around and gone, Lee, you are taking my Newcastle team to the end of the season. I'm going to give you some money in January. I'm going to give you 160 million. You can sign 3 players. Who are you signing?
But they have to look for one in each position, I suppose. I mean, like, if I was for doing it now with the situation they're in, say you're looking at Premier League experience, the centre half, I would go with Tarkowski for now because he's proven his worth there. He's in the last year of his contract at Burnley, so. And
you like to get him.
Yeah, you got a snip there anyway. I think it's going to be about 15 million, they're saying, you know. So
15?
Yeah, because he's in the last year, so his value's gone down.
Who cares? You'd still put a 40 mil price tag on him if you were Burnley, though, wouldn't you, though?
You can't do it now, can you? Else he goes for free. So I think they'd sell him for around about that, 15, 20 million. So
I think someone would pay 30 million for him.
Newcastle probably could if they really want him, but I think they'll get him for cheap. I mean, Burnley could say, no, you know, you've got to pay more because we know your financial situation.
Super rich.
Yeah.
We know you're a country.
I could actually see Spinazzola there in the future. I don't think it'd happen straight away. I could see him for Newcastle.
Who's he actually play for? Is it Roma or something like that?
He was playing for Sassuolo, I think, but he might have been at Roma. I'm not too sure. I'm sure he's at Sassuolo.
They're a bit of a dark horse side as well. They came up through the ranks, didn't they?
Yeah, well, they're quite an inside. They're almost like the leaders of Serie A. They are.
Yeah, they are. They get
them in Atalanta.
Slap one week and then end up like bouncing the next week.
In the centre, you'd want a good centre midfield. There's so many about, you know, that's an hard one to think of, really.
Yeah, tell you what, Ward-Prowse then. Ward-Prowse.
But in my opinion, no. But yeah, you could see that.
Experience, scores goals, contributes. He's a leader on the pitch. Tarkowski, Ward-Prowse, and
probably
up top.
Everyone keeps mentioning Haaland and Mbappe. That's not going to happen yet.
Got to be realistic. Maybe a couple of years down the line, it might be something you can turn around and go, yeah. If they
tell you who they could go for, he sort of plays both options like wing and up front is Ismail Assar at Watford.
Do you know who I'd buy?
Go on.
Bring him home. Ivan Toney.
Yeah, he did play for him, didn't he?
Why not?
Yeah, it could be an option.
You got a big project like that, and also you'd offer him big money as well. You turn around and tell him the project. You don't need to be told the project. You know, he's a good player. You say,
yeah, been there.
We're going to build this team over the next couple of years around you. We want you and Wilson up top with the likes of Sam Maximan. That's frightening.
There'll be an handful. There will be an handful.
I'm telling you.
He's been there before, so he knows the club, doesn't he? So
that is a handful of a forward line.
He'd definitely be up for the move. It's whether Brighton would sell this season.
Brentford.
Tony, before Brentford got promoted, was on about whatever would happen, he'd be in the Premier League the next season. So
exactly, he's not scared of going.
No. So, but I think Brentford, I know Newcastle could probably throw whatever they wanted at it, but
you just throw him an offer so that they can't refuse it and make him an offer contract-wise that he can't refuse. They can afford it. If you're already talking about Mbappe and people like that and getting giddy, then you can afford to pay someone like Ivan Toney some big Premiership wages.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what, that team there, even with regardless of who they've got still hanging around, you know, at the club, I think with a goalkeeper like Darlow, with a centre half of Tarkowski and Lascelles, with a midfield of don't even know who you'd play with him, but Ward-Prowse and Longstaff, and then a forward line of Sam Maximan, Wilson, and Toney. Tell you what, you're starting to look like a Premiership side, mate. Honestly,
yeah, there's a bit of a build of a spine there, isn't there? So
yeah, massively.
What's happened to Shelby? I haven't heard him this season.
Hiding somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player when he's on his game, but obviously last few years I just keeps disappearing. So
I don't think he's ever had any consistency in his entirety.
Yeah.
He's good in fits and bursts, and unfortunately, you can't be like that. You can't have 2 good games here, 9 shit games here after, then maybe another couple of good games, and then 4 good games, 3 assists and 1 goal, and then not be heard of for 2 years. That's no good to anybody on a contract. That, you know, you've got to have some reliability. You've got to have some kind of, you know, consistency just across the board. It's not hard to play well, or at least show you're trying. You know, this is the thing. If you're paying that kind of wages, getting paid that kind of wages to kick a, as my granddad used to say, to kick a bag of, what was it?
Bag of air.
Yeah. It's crazy. But you're in a real position where you're like, everyone envies you. You know, you're playing football for a living.
Yeah, I mean, you should be enjoying it. People get asked whether they see it as a job, and everyone will say it's for the love of the game. But when the money's there, you've got to put the shift in. I mean, you've got to put the shift in to earn your dollar.
Exactly. Almost give them a reality check and go, Lidl's are after like shelf stackers. They've got their own good wages, $16.50 an hour at the minute. Boy, if it all fails here, Lidl's are after you. You know, give them a bit of reality check that they should be, that why they're there. You know, and I think a lot across the board, there's too many people. I'll tell you a prime example of a world beater that just was there for the money, and then you never heard of him again because he was so happy sitting on the bench taking money. Who am I going to say? Going back a few years.
You're going to Man United or?
Oh, Arsenal.
Ozil.
Nope. More so than him. He actually looked interested for over a season, so definitely not him.
Yeah, I suppose he did. Is it before Ozil then or after?
Yeah, before Ozil. Let's say he scored 4 goals against Liverpool.
Arshavin.
Yeah,
wow. He should have been up for that, though. He should have been up for that.
Wow. I've never seen anyone want to steal a wage in my life. Had the world.
He was an exciting player in the.
He had the world at his feet.
build-up.
That kid got offered this mega contract, and I thought, "Fuck this! I'm going to sit on the bench."
I've made it. It's too cold here in England.
Yeah. Mate, honestly, it happens. And to be fair, Phil Jones has Rio Ferdinand gave him a load of grief about saying that he was a bit like that. But unfortunately, he's just really struggled with injury. And Solskjaer came out and said that he's a model professional. And you just don't see it, do you? But you got to take his word for it.
Yeah.
Still always there and thereabouts. And to be honest, he's probably in contention to play this weekend.
Typically.
I know. But I've never seen a problem with Phil Jones. And I think he, as I say, he struggled with injuries. But Ferguson touted him as like the next England captain. You know, he obviously seen something in him. You know, and you look at what he did. He was brilliant under Ferguson, really, when he came in and did bits. And even for...
He's not as bad as people make him out to be, put it that way, so...
That's what I mean. If he went to Newcastle...
He'd probably stand out, yeah, if he stayed fit and obviously.
He would. He actually genuinely would, because he's a good Premiership player and not necessarily a Manchester United player, not necessarily like a top 7 or 8 team player initially. But if you're looking for someone to show something up and be a bit more like a bit of stability and a bit of, and he's got the experience, he's got Premiership experience, which counts for a lot in this day and age. And that's what they need. They need people to come in which are on the fringes of these teams, you know, which have had plenty of experience. And I think that's where they're going to have to go for a while. Like when City had the likes of Craig Bellamy and people like that.
Newcastle had them themselves, didn't they? You know, he was a good player for them.
Do you remember Darren Huckabee? What happened to him? He was mega.
Yeah, he is. Really exciting player, wasn't he? You know, I've seen him at Coventry, Norwich. He did it. You know.
Yeah.
Was he at Leeds? I'm thinking of Davinidi on it.
He was at Leeds.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, I think he went. Did he go there in the Championship? Or was he there in the Premier League?
Were he not there first? He went Leeds.
Yeah, he did. So yeah, yes, he did.
Coventry,
yeah.
Newcastle, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And
then Norwich. I think Norwich was at the end. He stayed there for a while after, didn't he?
Norwich. Do you know what? That's where I couldn't think he went after. Norwich.
Yeah.
Let's be having you.
It was around that era. Yeah. You don't see many strikers wear the number 6. No. Number 6 in Norwich.
Dion Dublin did though, didn't he? Or was that 4?
He might have wore 6, you know. Or was it?
At Villa.
At Villa, I think he wore number 9. I'm sure he did.
Did he?
I'm thinking when he went back to Norwich, I'm sure he wore number 5 for Norwich then. Because he went back at the end of his career, I believe.
Did he?
I think he did, yeah. I'm sure he went for the last year. I'm sure he went on loan. So, but I remember him being number 9 for Villa.
Lining himself up for Holmes under the hammer.
Yeah. I hope I'm not wrong there, and I've got it wrong with that.
Was it Holmes under the hammer? Is that where he?
Yeah, that's where he's gone there. Yeah.
God bless
it, that doesn't he, old Dion? Loves it.
Loves it. Does love it. Yeah. Do you know what? I used to like him, man. There's something about it. Can't believe
I liked him the moment he went for Robbie Savage. So yeah. Anyone who goes up for Robbie Savage goes up, in my opinion.
Yeah. To be honest, the best thing United ever did, getting rid of him.
Yeah. Probably couldn't take any more of his bad jokes.
Oh no! Oh, he's so depressing to listen to.
He thinks he's hilarious, doesn't he? But we'll have to get him on. Just roast him for 90 minutes.
Oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. I'd just be like, disappear.
Accidentally lose him from the chat. See you later.
Oh, we seem to have lost Robbie Savage.
Yeah, be like that Jeremy Clarkson meme, won't it? Oh no. Anyway.
Oh dear. Yeah. So I don't know. I think realistically, we've put our first 3 transfers in for him. what we think should stabilise the team into the next season. And to be honest, if you sign them three, you're keeping them for a few seasons, aren't you?
Yeah.
No matter
I say there's gonna be a lot of guarantee they're gonna have to offer onto it is to keep them in the Premier League because, I mean, because of the clout they've got there now, you might see some of them stay if they did get relegated. You know, you see some of them stay and see that year through. But for players like Ward Prowse and that, it's probably at the age of about 28 now, is he something like that? But
yeah, he must be kicking on for 20.
He wouldn't win another season he wouldn't win a season in the Championship to then see Newcastle spend a load of
Almost
money.
makes me wonder now Newcastle are getting that funding whether Southampton are going to be the team that gets pulled into the mire, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the other one that I was going to mention now is because of what's happened in the international break was Watford sacking the manager back to their old ways. And Ranieri,
I fancied them staying up, mate, to be honest, initially.
Yeah, but this is just first spanner in the works for them now because I don't think Ranieri's done much since his title winning year. He's sort of struggled everywhere he's gone after that.
Yeah, but then again, I suppose on the grand scheme of things, you look at Watford and they were no different to Leicester. They've got kind of a similar kind of parallel structure to Leicester. If you look at it, you know, even like managers that have followed at times, Nigel Pearson didn't get the credit he deserved for Leicester, you know, which took Leicester because he went on this mad run which kept him up, and then he went into, you know, and then they carried on, and then he had another decent run at the start of the season. They ended up like stupid amount of games where they'd won on the bounce, you know, and then they sacked him and got Ranieri in, and he built from that. So realistically, he didn't actually do as much of that work. Yeah, he's obviously contributed and put a bit of a mentality into the team, but he hasn't done as much work to that title-winning team as everyone thinks. Nigel Pearson were harshly treated there and probably would, it's hard to say, but possibly would have done something fairly similar with that team that year.
Yeah, I think that they've had a bit of probably not as much winning mentality, but that they've definitely been okay that year.
They won at least 6 or 7 on the bounce, mate, didn't they, under Pearson? Carrying on from the back end of the last season, because I think they had to win 4 or 5 to stay up. So at the end, and I'm sure they won 5 on the bounce at the end, and I'm sure he carried it on into the new season. Leicester fans will probably correct me if I'm completely wrong, but
ironically, he went to Watford, didn't he? And it was, I always remember, he got sacked before a game with Arsenal, who were poor at the time, and I think there was 3 games left. He'd only been there a month or 2, I think, and they sacked him before the Arsenal games. He had a disagreement with the board.
Exactly where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. He went to Watford.
Yeah.
He went to Watford, and now you've got Ranieri going to Watford. So they're following the same suit. They've had the same stature as a club. And obviously Leicester have been retaken over and, you know, whatever they're called. Okay, I'd never be able to pronounce the chairman's name, you know, in a month of Sundays. But Leicester fans will. But I'm time served with this now. But well-run club. And to be honest, they need somebody like that at Watford, to give the stability of the club, because it's a good club. It's a really good club. And I think the facilities are good there. Obviously, they rave about the facilities at Watford, and I think that's half of the pulling power for them. And decent stadium. And
an old traditional stadium. I like stadiums like that, yeah. So, yeah. The
fan base.
Yeah. But, you know, it's frustrating seeing teams sack the manager every so often, you know.
Terrible.
You need to stick something. You need to stick some stability there. It's their way of doing things. I suppose it was going to happen. But it's not like they've had the worst start to the season. He's gone, hasn't he? So
I don't understand that him being sacked at all. I just don't get that one at all. I've got him certain times in the past. You know, that, what was that? Kiko Flores, were it?
Yeah.
I never understood that at the time either. You know, they've had a couple of managers where I've gone, hey, they've sacked him. Oh.
Well, the longest service one of the recent time was Javi Gracia, I think his name was.
Yeah.
We got them to the FA Cup final, and he lasted about 3 games into the new year after, you know. Seemed to have something going there. Yeah.
Their football was half decent. Decore and Delafeu.
Yeah.
And they had some good players there at that time. Troy Deeney, obviously, in his prime then. They had some good players then. You know, I think the problem is they've still got Tom Cleverley at midfield.
He seems to be doing okay there, doesn't he? Yeah, he's never been my cup of tea, but
he's at home there. Some players just fit in a certain style of play in a certain club, don't they? But
yeah. I think that's all we can say for today, then, isn't it? I think we've gone on a lot longer than we said we was going to. So.
We always do. There's no difference there. But I think Newcastle fans, we've genuinely, from a Wolves fan and a Manchester United fan, we're genuinely excited to see what's going to be happening with your club. And I think you've heard it here first. Tarkowski, Ward-Prowse, and Ivan Toney. You can attract some of them 3. You're out of trouble, and you're in for some good luck next season, I think.
Yeah, get some foreign imports in as well for next season. They'll be buzzing.
Well, anyway, thanks for watching Pre-Match Focus, and we'll be back again at the end of the week with our in-game tactics with Lee, and
Predictions.
And the predictions. So like, share, subscribe, and catch you soon.